Hey guys, and welcome to your lab tools and equipment lesson. So this is your Unit 0, Lesson 3. It's going to be really quick today because most of us are at least sophomores, if not juniors and seniors. So you guys have probably seen this stuff before. It's just a little bit of a review here as we get started in our course. So it shouldn't take too long. Now, I'm not going to make you guys take notes today because, like I said, you're already going to know most of this. However, as we're going through, what I'm asking you to do is if you see something that you don't know, so if you see a piece of equipment you're not sure about, just jot it down because you are going to have to answer some questions after you watch your lesson today. All right, so why are we looking at lab tools and equipment? I'm aware that you guys are at home, you're in the virtual setting, you're not going to come in and actually do physical labs. However, you'll be doing some virtual labs and also be looking at demos throughout the semester. So of either myself or other people conducting experiments, and it's just good to be well-versed and knowledgeable about the equipment that these people are using, or even when you get older, if you decide to go to college and get back into a physical setting. It might be really good to have that prior knowledge of these equipments and also how to behave in a lab setting as well, because lab safety does tie into the use of equipment as well. So we use different pieces of lab equipment for lab investigations. We use them to conduct labs and also to help protect the body. So things like goggles and aprons, those are considered lab equipment. Their just function is to protect the scientist who is conducting the experiment. Each lab tool has a specific function, and you guys need to know what those functions are. So here we have a few pictures of different lab tools. Move this up here out of the way. And we just need to know what each one of these are and what their functions are. So I'm going to pull the name up of each of them, and then on the next slide we'll talk about the functions. So this first one we have our goggles. Then our apron, tongs, beaker, graduated cylinder, flask, also known as Erlenmeyer flask, dropper, and test tube. Now, something I want to point out about these two right here, the graduated cylinder, you're going to have a question on your assignment today. Graduated cylinders are used to precisely measure liquids. Okay, so if you need to know the volume of a liquid to, pretty precisely, you're going to have to use a graduated cylinder. That's what it's for. Now you can see, like in a beaker and a flask, there are places to measure volumes, but it's going to be more accurate in a graduated cylinder. So if you want to accurately measure the volume of a liquid, you're going to use that graduated cylinder. And then if you want to transfer it, typically you'll measure it in the graduated cylinder first and then dump it into the flask or the beaker. This flask right here is an Erlenmeyer flask. It's used for swirling and mixing chemicals. If you notice the difference between the beaker and the flask has a narrow neck on it, and this allows you to swirl it without spilling the contents of it. So here are all of the functions of those lab equipments. And you can pause the video and you can read over those. But your goggles, your apron, those are for protecting your eyes and your body. Tongs are used to grip and lift objects, typically if you're heating something. So you'll use tongs to handle test tubes. If you're heating a test tube, obviously you don't want to touch it with your bare fingers because if it's hot, you could burn yourself. So that's just common sense safety. You don't want to touch hot glassware. And also, fun fact, you can't tell if glassware is heated just by looking at it because cold glassware and warm glassware, hot glassware, it all looks the same. So if you're ever back into a regular lab and you're not sure if something's hot, assume that it is and don't touch it. Beakers are used for stirring, mixing, heating liquids. Again, that graduated cylinder is used to find precise volume. Flask is used to swirl and mix chemicals. Droppers transfer a small amount. Think of like medicine droppers for babies. They come in those the tiny bottles where you have to give a baby a small amount, so it's used to transfer smaller amounts. And then test tubes are used to hold small amounts of solids or liquids, and test tubes can be heated over a Bunsen burner. All right, and then our last set of equipment, we've got our microscope, our meter stick, our electronic scale, our spring scale, which you guys don't have to worry about, thermometer, stopwatch, hand lens, which is just a magnifying glass. It's got magnification on it, but just not as intense as a microscope, and then a triple beam balance. And once again, here is the function of that lab equipment. So our microscope used to observe and magnify small objects. Typically microscopes are going to be used more in biology, just because you're learning about the cell and all that fun stuff. Meter sticks are used to find length of an object, so you're measuring with the meter stick. Electronic scales are digital scales, so they just measure the mass of an object, so typically in grams. Spring scales are used to find the force of an object in newtons. Thermometers are used to find the temperature of a substance, so how hot it is, how cool it is. Stopwatches used to time a situation in seconds, so if you're conducting an experiment and you want to run it for 20 seconds, you can use a stopwatch. The hand lens, again, just magnifies, and then the triple beam balance is used to find the mass of an object. Last but certainly not least, we have funnel, test tube rack, petri dish, and Bunsen burner. The Bunsen burner, for you guys in physical science and chemistry, you're going to see a lot of in videos because in chemistry, it involves a lot of heating chemicals and substances, and Bunsen burners are just there to act as the heat source, essentially. So funnels can be used for guiding a liquid or powder into an opening so that you avoid making a mess. Test tube rack, used to support, hold, and store test tubes. Petri dishes are used to grow cultures, so again, more so in biology than it would be in chemistry, but still important to know what it is. And then Bunsen burners are used to heat test tubes or to burn certain substances. Okay? And that is going to take us to the end of that. So again, super quick, just a really quick review of your different types of lab equipment and materials. And you guys are going to do a short quiz today on lab tools and lab safety. Super easy, but you can use this video to help you match the different types of lab equipment to their function in that assignment. But if you have any questions, of course, you guys know that I'm here to help you out. So good luck, and if you have any questions, let me know. Bye, guys.